closer to another episode of The Decision. First take of Tuesday. Thanks for hanging with us, Jalen Rose in studio. Molly Karam, how we doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. Max and Stephen A. on the road. Fellas, how we feeling?
What's up? How y'all doing? Good morning.
Ready to
Good morning.
go, as
What's going on,
always.
Jay?
Morning.
Good morning.
All right,
Good morning,
gentlemen.
good morning, good morning this morning.
Let's do this. So we know the players might just have some insight as to what's going on in the association. And ESPN asked 48 NBA pros for their anonymous predictions on where LeBron James will end up in 2018 offseason. 59% predict James will stick with the Cavs. 22% say the Lakers, and 7% say the Heat. Stephen A., you're up first. What would be LeBron's best move?
Me personally speaking, I think his best move would be Houston. I mean, obviously, when you talk, we're not talking finances. We're just talking basketball. I think his best move would be Houston. And the reason why I feel it's Houston is because I think James Harden is a superstar. I think James Harden is somebody, obviously, who can shoot the basketball incredibly well. We look at LeBron James being ball dominant and what have you, and possibly having an effect on the rest of the team. But if we believe he's the best player in the world, and we believe he manages to find a way to have a positive impact, when you look at a guy like James Harden and a guy like CP3, neither of whom have ever played in an NBA Finals, the reality is that LeBron James could possibly get them over the hump, but their requisite skill set ultimately helps him immensely. First of all, CP3 is a born floor leader. That's number one. Number two, James Harden definitely is a shot maker, and he's somebody with the ability to close. LeBron James is that guy that you can utilize for the first 46, 47 minutes, night in or night out, that's going to keep you in every game due to his sheer greatness. There's no question about that. And so what you have is a situation with two individuals that have the ability to close. And then last but not least, you have to take into account the level of competition. If you want to have the mentality that you know what, you're in the Eastern Conference and the path to prosperity is easier because of the lack of parity that exists in the East compared to the West, I can understand that thinking. But you still ultimately face against a juggernaut in the Golden State Warriors. I believe that the Houston Rockets, however, with a LeBron joining a Harden and a CP3, obviously nullifies and neutralizes that to the point where it's a pick-em NBA Finals if that ever were to happen. And so because of that, when you talk about LeBron James and championships, I'm thinking along the lines of Houston. But it would be the most ideal move if he manages to pull off a miracle and win the championship this year. If he loses in Cleveland, even though he ended the 52-year drought, some people are going to have a little trepidation about that, even though I still don't feel he owes anybody anything. But if he managed to win a championship in Cleveland this year, talk about literally he doesn't owe them anything now, but he certainly wouldn't owe them anything after that. And that's the way I'm thinking about it right now. So that's why I come up with Houston.
Max?
The answer is not Houston. And by the way, if he went to Houston, I don't think the finals is a pick-em. I think the Rockets smash everything in sight. And yes, that includes Golden State. I think if LeBron was on Houston, Golden State may not go 7 games with the Rockets. And by the way, it's possible the Rockets could win the championship this year. And if they do, then I think it's impossible to go to Houston. Then it's like if Kevin Durant joined the Warriors after the Warriors not only won 73 games, but let's say they had also beaten the Cavs in the finals. I don't think Durant can join the Warriors at that point. It's just too ridiculous. Although in terms of the shamelessness of superstars joining great teams, maybe nothing's too ridiculous. So I would say the Rockets are not the best choice for him unless the only criteria is to create the best team. Then they're the best choice. I think staying in Cleveland is wrong because if he stays in Cleveland, his championship days, in my opinion, are over. I think joining the Heat is okay, but I don't think that's the best spot either. The best spot for LeBron James is the San Antonio Spurs. They have not won a championship in a minute. They are not like joining the Houston Rockets where you say, wait a minute, they already have the best record in the entire league this year. You're going to join that team? It's not like joining the Warriors, who've not only won 73 games recently, but have won 2 championships and added Durant and all that stuff. It's not quite the same as joining those 2 teams. The Spurs right now are 10 games out of first place. But guys, look at how they're 10 games out. Their best player by far is LaMarcus Aldridge. Everyone else is like 20-something minutes a game on the team. I mean, Popovich is doing this with spit and bubble gum. This is all alchemy. It's smoke and mirrors that Popovich is working this magic, and that's why LeBron should go. Apologies to Eric Spoelstra, who's an excellent coach. but LeBron is the best player of his era by far, and Popovich is the best coach by far. And before LeBron James is done, while he's still a great player, he deserves to play for a truly great coach. I would love to see it happen. Look at Manu Ginobili. 40 years old, still kind of balling when he's in the game. That's the kind of way that LeBron James should age. And consider the Spurs 10 games out without Kawhi Leonard. Well, what would they be with Kawhi Leonard? And then what would they be with LeBron James on top of it? LeBron James' championship days would not be over if he joined the Spurs. That's where he should go.
I love you gentlemen so much. I hope after today's show, I'm graciously welcomed back on this fine program that's doing so really well in the national landscape. I don't know who to go after first. So I'll go after you first, Stephen A. Sounds like you're fighting a little bit of cold.
I am.
Also, you had a little auto-tune in your commentary. Here's what I mean. On one half, you said LeBron should go to Houston, but then you gave a couple of quantifiers in that answer. So I'm going to break down those quantifiers because I disagree with the Houston Rockets being the destination. Did you say that the money doesn't fit? They're playing.
No, I didn't say that. I said shove money. I said shove money aside. I'm only talking basketball.
Correct.
Because we were talking about the preference of where you would like them to be. That's all.
You can't shove money aside because they're playing professional basketball. And LeBron has already come out and said that he wants to get top dollar. So Houston is out. You also said that he gets an easier path if he stays in the East. That's another reason he doesn't want those West Conference problems. You also said that he couldn't be as ball dominant. They have two guys in Chris Paul and James Harden, the only teammates that both averaged 9 assists in the same season in almost 30 years of NBA basketball. LeBron James isn't going to be spotting up in the corner watching those guys create. And lastly, you're going to appreciate this one. Who's the guy that shot LeBron James down in the NBA Finals to win MVP? That was Kevin Durant, which means if he joins the Houston Rockets and he's playing power forward, he's going to have to guard Kevin Durant for a series. Not going to be able to do it. Now, Max, let me talk about your argument.
I'll deal with you in a second. Go ahead.
You said the San Antonio Spurs. Have you seen Kawhi Leonard play basketball with them this year? Why would you go play with that team when you don't know Kawhi's health status? Why would you go play with that team?
Assuming Kawhi comes back healthy, of course.
Assuming. You can't assume if you're LeBron James in July that Kawhi Leonard's going to be 100% healthy for the rest of his career. He may miss this entire year, which I predict possibly is in the process of happening. Oh, and by the way, going to San Antonio, man, you won't have the cachet. You won't have the access. You won't have the opportunity to be the king of the castle because that's Greg Popovich. And yes, you're going to win games, but man, those statistics are going to take a hit if you're trying to be the all-time leading scorer in the history of the NBA. So the question is, what's his next move? I think he personally should stay in Cleveland. Unlike players like myself, iconic players like LeBron James don't want to be mercenaries bouncing around from team to team to team trying to chase a ring. You want to be playing where they're going to retire your number and or give you a statue. So if he does make a move, it seems like it should be to Miami, another team that they could retire his number. He probably won't get a statue because Dwayne Wade is going to have that. And you are still in the Eastern Conference where you've been the most dominant figure since a player that participated with the early Celtics teams by making it to multiple NBA Finals.
First of all, a couple of things. Jalen Rose, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but you did start off the show by saying that you're happy and proud to be a part of this show. Excuse me, sir. I make the rules half the time anyway. If I want to be hypothetical, then that's what I want to be. So the reality of the situation is clear, Jalen Rose. What we're saying is I'm saying we're shoving aside money only because of course I'm not ignoring it. Of course it's a factor. What I'm saying is if we're just talking pure basketball, if we had our druthers, if we fantasized about teammates, mingling together or coming together, that's all we're talking about here. So, of course, I understand what you were saying about the monetary issues. I'm saying shove that aside and just talk to me about basketball because very, very few people would know more basketball than you, Mr. Fab Five. I'm deferring to your excellence and your brilliance as a basketball analysis. And I'm saying to you, I just want to talk basketball. That's all. I just want to talk basketball. I'm not thinking about the money. That's number one.
Daryl Morey can figure out the money.
Hold on for a second there. So I understand that point, but I'm saying shove that aside. Now let's get down to the nitty-gritty. When you talk about LeBron James in the Western Conference, Jalen, one of the things you keep bringing up is the fact that LeBron James could very well end up 3-6 after these NBA Finals, assuming he loses again. I've made the proclamation that I think LeBron James would rather lose before the NBA Finals than go all the way to the Finals and lose another one. That's my belief. And so as a result of that, if you go to the Western Conference and Adam Silver doesn't pull off changing the format East-Western Conference and he doesn't pull off changing it to a best 1 of 16, regardless of conferences or what have you, chances are, if you're LeBron James and you out West, if you lose, at least you didn't go to the Finals and lose again. That's number 2. Number 3, CP3, you know this, Jalen. He departs from the Clippers. He goes to Houston. I had spoken to him directly. Many people have just shoved aside what he said. He obviously was ball dominant. He got tired of that. He wanted to be off the ball. He wanted somebody else to at least share that responsibility with him. He didn't want every single play to have to go through him. He thought that it would lend itself towards success. It would also really, highlight his other capabilities, not to mention the fact that, again, not having that responsibility would prolong his career. Who's to say that LeBron James can't have the same mentality? And so I look at it from that perspective. We all know what the possibilities are. Hell, I wouldn't rule out the Clippers. I wouldn't rule out Miami. I wouldn't rule out Philadelphia, for crying out loud. But obviously Cleveland is front and center. All I'm saying is we're having a basketball conversation, fantasizing about the greatest player in the world who's approaching free agency, and what would you like to see if the world was aligned perfectly. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I didn't take it that way. I took it the way Jalen took it. But, Jalen, I think that Daryl Morey could figure out the numbers in a way. You move what you have to do, keep the big three together. You get shooters for D'Antoni. They'd figure that out. If LeBron James is available, Daryl Morey is the dude to figure that out. He's not just going to be standing in the corner waiting. Now you got three guys who can handle the ball as though they're primary ball handlers, move the ball, shoot, do all those things. I think that would work out fine. I think the problem there is it's LeBron one-upping Kevin Durant. LeBron going to Miami, it's like, that's not fair. You're putting all these great players together. You can't do that. Oh, you can do that? KD says, watch this, I'm going to join an already great team. That would be LeBron one-upping KD. San Antonio, Jalen, I think works for a variety of reasons, primarily just to make it quick. To your point about his numbers would decrease and all this kind of stuff, and Popovich is the guy, I believe that helps LeBron's legacy, and I believe LeBron is smart enough to understand that. LeBron James, if he just chases numbers right now, will stop winning rings. He will never catch Michael Jordan or really have a good affirmative argument against Michael Jordan other than his longevity. That's if he does the Wilt Chamberlain, right? If he does the Bill Russell, if he gives up the stats to be a part of a winning culture, if he lets Popovich, as Stephen A. has brought up many times, absorb the heat that would come his way, it would actually improve his legacy and would give him his best chance of retiring as the GOAT, which I believe is his number one priority.
Last word here, Jalen.
If we're going to play fantasy basketball, we might as well just send them to Golden State. I mean, we're not going to use the salary cap. We're going to find a way to figure it out. Again, I'm just talking about what's realistic. I think it's realistic for him to stay in Cleveland.
Well, the question is, what would LeBron's best move be?
But what I'm saying is, well, wait a minute. It's not just about what LeBron's best move would be. It's also about why. Like, for example, if Jalen wants to bring up Golden State, Jalen himself would abhor the fact that LeBron would collaborate with Kevin Durant and Steph Curry and Klay. I mean, come on now.
I totally agree with you. No question about it, my brother.
All right, let's keep it moving, guys. So Stephen A. says Houston, Max says San Antonio, Jalen says Cleveland, possibly Miami. The players also weighed in on other major topics in the NBA, asking, will Paul George stay in OKC? 45% said the Thunder's opening lineup of next season will not include PG-13, just Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony.